What's up, everybody? Welcome to podcast. Now, I'm Alex. In this video, I want to look at the positives of E3 being canceled. Now, yesterday morning, we actually made a video where I talked about why I believe E3 was in serious danger of being canceled. I had talked about, how I had seen some speculation floating around there that this was something that could be happening. And obviously, as actually the day went on, more and more talk was leading towards, obviously, E3 being done for. There was even developers saying to cancel your flight to E3. Like last night, there were insiders saying, like, hey, it's going to happen today, this morning, and then obviously it did. So E3 has officially been canceled, no longer happening. The ESA is moving towards a kind of an online version of it, which is literally what I said. I had predicted this. I had actually said this weeks and months ago as well, in that I think it's just a better overall idea to not have E3 and to just have individual companies do their press releases or do their press conferences online and stuff like that to announce their stuff. Now, yes, I understand that with E3 there are a lot of negatives. I get that. I had seen some people write on Twitter, like, people that have been inside the industry, Greg Miller, Jason Schreier, all these kind of people saying, like, hey, E3 is about the conferences, it is about all that stuff, and it really is for the corporations, for the mega corporations. And so while I agree, and I've always supported Sony and Nintendo, pulling out and saying, we're just not going to do this, it does suck for those, because I've seen, like, the Twitter post saying, like, it sucks for the indie devs. There's, like, lunch meetings and different, like, pitch ideas. I mean, bringing together of the industry, yeah, it does suck. It is a negative thing that we can no longer have the bringing together an industry. Like I talked about in yesterday's video, for me, when I was younger, sitting there, like, in my basement, I would invite my friends over and Tyler, and we would watch, we would watch E3, and it would be an entire, like, week affair, and it would be a really, really fun thing. But as I've grown up, I've just kind of gotten away from that and kind of just really seen, I think, through it to know that it doesn't really need to happen. So what are the positives? Well, obviously the first positive, you want to look at the reason why it was canceled, which again, we're not going to say the words because YouTube really hates those words, or that phrase that's been, thrown around there just a tiny bit. It's making its way across the news. But that reasoning, obviously that's a positive, right? Not having any more people be at risk, not having that amount of people being together. But it truly is still, I think, a really, really good thing. Yes, I think the smaller devs, the indie community, they will get crushed. The small gaming corporations, they may get crushed by this. But in the larger scale picture, I feel like they can still handle it. I feel like they can still work out deals with these other companies. You see Sony, you see Microsoft, all that kind of stuff. And what I talked about yesterday, too, is even like Sony's State of Play. If we get to a time where Sony can do a State of Play once a month, once every 2 months, however often they do it, that really is, because if we've looked back at any of the past Sony State of Plays, they sometimes highlight these games that really would never have stood a chance at an E3 showing, and they never really did. Sony, Microsoft, all these different companies, when they would have their, like, 5-minute sizzle reel of, like, 500 indie games all in one time, and it wasn't, I mean, that's an over-exaggeration. It'd be like a 2-3 minute thing. They would show, like, 30, 40 games all at one time. They'd all be these indie games, and that would be it. So even what we did have wasn't much for these indie developers. They can still make it work. They can still figure it out. The internet is a very, very powerful place. Just because you don't show up at E3 doesn't mean you're toast. It really doesn't. If that was the case, then Nintendo would be gone and Sony would be gone because they've pulled out as of late. Nintendo had pulled out years and years ago, and they've done more than fine. They've actually crushed, specifically Microsoft, who continues to go to these things, and yet Nintendo Switch outselling it in a mere 3 years. So, I mean, I know I just poked at Microsoft there, but really, to drive home the point, is it doesn't necessarily matter. Now, I assume that there's a considerable amount of people that maybe have come for the Batman stuff, right? Because I talk about Batman so much on the channel. I mean, there is a good news there, too, right? These companies will just do their own thing. Now, again, the ESA has said that they're going to try and work with these different publishers to create basically an E3 online. Now, I don't really, to be honest with you, I don't like that. I don't want that. I would prefer that it's spaced out. I could run through, and maybe I will. There's like 9 publishers out there that I can think of just on the top of my head that would be ideal candidates to each have their own. So let's maybe go through them. Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, Ubisoft, EA, Square Enix, Activision, Warner Bros. That's 8. I feel like I could come up with one more, but maybe I'm just blanking on it right now. There are plenty, and I'm sure I'm missing a ton more than just those, right? But those are some of and Bethesda, the one that I really never really wanted to think about. Now, you could go through the examples of all of those different corporations or all these different publishers. They don't have to be 2 hours long. See, it's actually perfect for a publisher like Bethesda or Warner Bros. Why go on stage if you're Bethesda like you have for the past many years at E3, and you really only have like 2 to 3 things to talk about? You really only need to be up there for 10 minutes, but instead, you need to drag it out. You need to lie about your games like Fallout 76, stuff like that. You need to make it all a really big deal because you need to be up there for an hour because of some reason. I don't know if they're under just the worst contract they could have ever signed, but now it's a perfect thing, right? Do a 10-minute presentation, a Bethesda Direct, and announce 2 of your games or whatever you want to talk about. Make it concise, make it short, get out there, go online, have it be a day. Have none of these companies overlap with each other. That's important too, and that's where I kind of get to. Don't make E3 literally E3 online, right? I don't want it, just because we cancel E3 in terms of the convention, I don't want it to go, okay, well, these 3 days, there's still going to be 9 conferences in the 3 days, and they're going to be right back, back to back to back. I don't want that because, again, they're going to take away from each other, and now, and again, in the best case scenario, these are looking at the positives here, we can just get the actual things that we want. We don't need to get all this fluff, right? The fluff pieces that everybody, okay, I'm a big Sony fan, but Sony's done it year after year after year. Recently, they've definitely done, like the last 2 to 3 E3s, they definitely do a whole lot better, but every company does it. Ubisoft has their Just Dance segment. Do you really think they need that? Do you think Bethesda needs to take 20 minutes to show something or show Elder Scrolls Online for like an hour? No, they don't need to do that, but they need to be up there for a certain amount of time, so they have to stretch it out. Every single company does it. But now, you're not constrained to that. Now you can do whatever you want. Sony, you want to go out, and Sony wasn't going to be there in the first place, right? Sony, do you want to do a 30-minute Sony State of Play, the biggest and best one you've ever done? Show your games. Show Ghost of Tsushima one last time. Show any other, if there's any other like holdover PS4 game. Show the next gen. Show that stuff. Show the price. Show the release date. Show some next gen games. Make some deals with these studios. Have some deals with these indie games where you show them off, and then that's a full day. That's just a day, and then everybody's talking about all that news. Have Microsoft go. Same thing. Show your Series X. Also make deals with these corporations. One of them show Call of Duty. One of them show, you can literally do the exact same thing. One show Call of Duty. One show Assassin's Creed. One show whatever you know what I mean? Make some deals with indies. Have those smaller companies be represented there. But again, don't have it be like fluff. Don't just like pad it. Make it, again, concise and what you want. And I truly believe that's where we're at. Now, again, I guess the debate is it going to be just like a 3-day thing? Are we still going to do literally E3 online? Or can we start like end of May? Like, can we do Warner Bros. At the end of May? Can we do Sony like a few days later? Can we do Nintendo a few days later? Can we do Square Enix in early June? Can we do Microsoft? You know what I mean? You don't have to do it 3 days where there's 3 conferences each day. Something like that. And by the way, again, I only listed 9. There's many more publishers out there in the world. It can get crazy. And again, ultimately, it's a really good thing. Now, again, yes, there will be some left behind, but if you're a publisher, you do have power. You really do. You have influence. You also, just the fact that, again, that's the internet, you're going to be seen. So just pick a day where there's nothing going on. And especially now that E3 is not happening, you have more days. Because that entire week, it's not like, if we're a smaller company, we can't announce our things during E3 week because we're going to get crushed because nobody's going to care. Well, now there is no E3, so now go ahead. Pick a day that you know these companies aren't going to do it. Have them all come together and figure it out. Again, like a lot of this, what I'm talking about is like speculation. It's me trying to like formulate things. But I can guarantee you this, though. The basic premise of what I'm talking about is what's going to happen, and that's the best part. We're going to get more announcements. We're going to get announcements from games and developers and publishers that we probably wouldn't have gotten all together at an E3. We're going to have them spread out. We're going to have more focus given to each one. It's going to be overall better. E3 was a dying thing. It absolutely was. And yes, we could blame whatever we want to blame for the reasoning that it's shut down, but ultimately, there's probably many more reasons. E3 was already on the decline. I'm not saying that those are the reasons, but if you want to think of reasons why I don't think E3 will be back next year, I think that this stuff is going to happen this year, and they're going to find out, oh, this works. Microsoft's going to realize, oh my God, we're so stupid. We've seen our other two competitors, even though we don't think of them as competitors, Nintendo and Sony, they knew what they were doing. We don't need E3. We can replicate those numbers, and it costs way less for us. All of those kind of things. And I'm not calling like Microsoft stupid, but all of these publishers are going to realize that Warner Bros is going to do their thing, which they absolutely will. They'll announce Batman. They'll announce Harry Potter. They'll announce Rocksteady. They can do it in a 20, 30-minute just live stream, conference thing from their own studios, and they're going to realize, oh my God, this was fun. We can do this more than once a year. We can do this whenever we want. This is a great way of getting in contact with our people, and you know what I mean? More people are going to be able to watch because we're not competing with somebody else. There's just so many, honestly. There's so many positives, and I get people are freaking out. I get people are worried, but the game announcements are coming. It's not affecting those. As long as these studios stay open, as long as none of them shut down because of this stuff, then things are still going on. It's just live appearances, basically, being close to a lot of people at the same time. That's what's being avoided. I really, we could have seen this from a mile away. We've been saying even on this channel for years now that we think E3 should just stop. Now we get it. Now we get to, I guess, now it's like do or die, right? Now we get to see if not having a going to E3 like conference, if that works. And I 100%, I would bet whatever you want me to bet. I would bet that it's going to work. I would bet that these publishers are going to announce their games. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. They're not going to be as competitive. They're not going to be competing with each other as much as they would. Again, we're going to get more announcements. We're going to get more spotlight on announcements than we ever could have during E3, especially if they spread it out the right way, and it's going to be really, really awesome. So, guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Do you think it's a positive thing that E3 is shut down? What are you expecting from these game announcements? I'll be in the comments. I'll be, answering any questions as well. There was a lot of concern in the past couple days in videos, but I think hopefully I settled those down, and again, we can talk about anything you guys want me to talk about in the comments of this video. Make sure you guys are subscribed, have that bell icon rung, and thank you so much for watching these videos. I hope to see you all on the next one.